Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy Presents our MLB DFS Pitcher Picks for Thursday, May 18th, 2017. I am your host, Nick from CWE, and in full disclosure, this is about my fourth time recording this video because every time I look at something, this slate keeps changing on me. Jose Berrios apparently not pitching today at all. Or rather, maybe there's an evening game now and he's pitching that game and the slate is set and has not been added. So we're not getting Jose Berrios. Trevor Cahill was initially announced as one of the starters. He's been put on the 10-day DL, so now we've got Jared Cosart. So like I said, a lot has been changing between writing this article last night and doing this video this morning. A little bit frustrating. This strikes me as one of those days where if it's going to be like this and stuff is going to be consistently changing, I'm probably just going to stay away. I was burned pretty heavily by Miguel Cabrera last night. That's my fault for two reasons. Number one, I've been playing daily fantasy to know that it does not matter what sport you are playing. You need to sit in front of the computer until you know the guys that are supposed to be playing are playing. I didn't do that yesterday. I got done with my lineups, liked how everything looked by 6:50, and I think Roto World's timestamp was 6:52. Miguel Cabrera was ruled out. So, lesson number one, always be there at your computer. Like I said, I've been doing this for 5 years. Basketball, I would never, ever set my lineups at 6:55 with the game started at 7 and move away. I sit there every night frantically till 7 o'clock, knowing that at 7:02 someone has probably been sat or couldn't man up enough to play. Lesson number two is we're playing daily fantasy, not remember when fantasy, and basically all of 2017 has been remember when fantasy when we are putting Miguel Cabrera into our lineups. He has been all kinds of awful, and I should have just known better. And it really sucks because my highest owned guys last night, Mike Trout, Tyler Collins, two pretty big games. I still cashed, to the plus, but I had a dead spot, and let's be honest, for everyone playing daily fantasy, the only worse spot to get a dead spot at than first base is going to be pitcher, because first base is stacked. Miggy, not exactly a cheap first baseman. There are a lot of different pivots I could have gone to, so things to remember. Like I said, this slate is pretty ugly. A lot of the top pitching options I'm not a big fan of. In the previous videos I recorded before, I just kept saying things that didn't end up being true because I hadn't noticed that there was going to be 2 games for the Twins today. But really I'm really sitting in an interesting situation tonight with Dylan Covey. He's been all kinds of awful, but he showed a step forward. Against the Padres. This guy was at one point a pretty highly touted prospect, so my gut reaction is that maybe it's not as fluky as we think, and maybe it's just taking him some time to adjust. I can't get too excited. Like I just said, I usually have... I'm a boomer bust guy. I'm playing a lot of guys at 50% every night. You can tell me it's not good or I'm going to lose, but whatever. If you're picking the right guys at 50%, and even if they're highly owned at 30%, you're still beating the field in how you move up. So that's fine. It's worked out mostly fine for me. When I win big. When I lose, I lose big, but the big win typically makes up for it. But even at that, I would say I would put my ownership of Covey at no more than 10%, just kind of a hedge on the fact that if he happens to be turning around or turning a corner, or whatever we might want to say, he's going to be barely owned, and it's something that I would have at least a little bit of interest in. Beyond that, when I'm looking at the pitchers on this slate, I mean, it is basically a veritable who's who of guys that I have no interest in playing. I have no trust for Amir Garrett, not to mention the fact that he had one game over 5 strikeouts. And so with that being said, there's just not a lot of appeal. I guess the potentially safest option could be Jordan Montgomery. Kansas, not a great team. Yes, they put up some runs yesterday coming back against the Yankees bullpen. But Montgomery, as a lefty, they're much less potent against lefties. Still not a huge strikeout situation, I don't think, but it's a situation where for his price in spots, I think he could be worth a look in tournaments today. I just don't know where his upside really is. 33 to 35 points on FanDuel, maybe 20 points on DraftKings. So, I mean, he's okay, but definitely unspectacular. Really, the top guy that is popping out to me today is Ervin Santana, who, like I said, as last night, this wasn't even an option. I mean, logic should have dictated there was a good chance that they'd have a doubleheader, but when you don't know the order that they'd go, well, they've opted to pitch Ervin Santana in the early game, so now he's on the pitching slate. 9,300 is a big price for a guy who's not a huge strikeout total, but man, his numbers have been solid this year. Mostly floating around that 4 or 5 strikeouts, but he's going 6 or 7 innings, getting quality starts and wins. And he's had 4 outings with no earned runs, 3 outings with 1 earned run, 1 outing with 6 earned runs. The Rockies can be tough, but this isn't Colorado. This is Minnesota, so I'd give the edge to the Twins a little bit. Like I said, just all in all, just not a spectacular day, not something I'm really excited about. 3 guys that I'm somewhat looking at, Dylan Covey in very, 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 very low percentages. Jordan Montgomery, Ervin Santana. That would wrap up our pitchers for the day. Make sure if you like the video to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to Facebook, like us there, follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.